Chiefs season over with a loss.
It'd be on life support.
Eek.
But the flip side to that, Brew, is they're a week away from flipping the narrative, from being able to flip the narrative. 1 week, if they win Sunday, right. 1 week from today, they play in Dallas on Thanksgiving and have the ability to get to 7-5 with games remaining against the Titans and the Raiders, and then three home games.
Yep.
Houston, Denver, the Chargers. And it's like, hey, if can we get to 7-5 by a week from today? I am going to say, as shaky as the Chiefs have been, they haven't played poorly against awful teams. They've blown awful teams out. So let's say they're going to handle the Titans and the Raiders. And then we have home games against teams that we feel deep down we're better than. Certainly we're as good as in Denver and the Chargers and Houston. And then have the chance to be the scariest 7 seed in the tournament's history. That is all still in front of them. But if they lose, Brew, then I do believe they have to run the table. And if they lose back-to-back peak motivation, must-win adjacent games against teams that I believe are good but not great in Denver and the Colts, then why would I say that they are? I wouldn't say they can't, but it would be foolish for me to say they will all of a sudden run the table.
Yeah, look, right now I'm at 45% that they missed the playoffs. So I was 50, I said it yesterday, 55%, or I said it
Good
Monday,
math.
whatever.
Yeah.
If they lose, I can't write off Mahomes and Reed just because of what they've done, just until they're like mathematically out. But I would go to 85% they missed the playoffs. So from 45% to 85%.
Yeah.
That's less than your little bracket or
You're at
whatever you
85.
put together.
Well, 15%, so you would give them basically
15%
a dice roll, a 1 in 6 shot.
And it's because of what you said. Obviously, the math gets problematic at 5 and 6. But beyond that, I would just really think this would be their 3rd straight loss, first time in Mahomes' career. Like you said, Buffalo, obviously, they were up for that game. They were up for the last game because they needed it. And then this game, you're up for, and you still lose. And this would be at home.
Yep.
And why? I just don't think, you know what? They're not good enough to run the table this year. They're not going to run. It's hard for me to see I'll give them this. Denver and the Chargers sweeping them. Now, maybe the fact that the Chargers game was in, Brazil, that's a different type of
like a
sweep.
whole different.
Yeah. But the Chargers are banged up on the offensive line, so maybe that makes a difference. But if they lose to the Colts, I would just feel like they're not good enough to run the table. And Bo Nix and Daniel Jones.
Right.
Yeah. Listen, I don't think the Chiefs' season would be over with a loss, but you would have no sense that this is any semblance of the Kansas City Chiefs that we know and love, or maybe know and hate, depending on what side of the aisle you are on that one. The Chiefs so consistently in those gotta have it moments, whether it's a drive, whether it's a play, whether it's a quarter, whether it's a game, whether it's a month, like whatever's been needed of them, they've been able to deliver. And it doesn't mean you're flawless, doesn't mean you're perfect, but they've been able to deliver. And a loss to the Colts, losing to, being unable to disrupt Daniel Jones, right? An imperfect quarterback. Being unable to slow down Jonathan Taylor or overcome his big impact. Or, having this offense being unable to, obviously it will sound silly to say, but score more points than what the Daniel Jones and the Indianapolis Colts can do, right? You'll just be like, huh? And if there was ever a team that was fool's gold or misleading, which I'm not saying the Colts are, or the Patriots are, or the Broncos were. Like, I'm not saying that, but you can make the argument why you can understand why people would believe that, and you can make the argument about that about the Eagles, about the Colts, the Patriots. Definitely more the Colts than the Patriots because they obviously don't have the history, and you're dealing with like a Daniel Jones, and same thing with the Seattle Seahawks and Sam Darnold. That if there was any semblance of a fool's gold team, that's like this team might not really be exactly what we believe it to be. The Chiefs would be in a position to expose that, to pop that. And that's why Nick was so confident about the Denver Broncos, because it's like, he's like, I think this team is fool's gold. I think this team is misleading. This team is not really what their record is. They're not actually a top team in the NFL. Bo Nix is not a good quarterback. Yeah, they got a great defense, but that's not enough. And yet the Kansas City Chiefs were unable to pop that bubble. And if they fail now to pop that bubble again, or the Colts prove to be like, there's nothing to pop, man. We're a great team. Same thing with the Broncos. Like, we're a great team. Sorry, like, just because you don't believe it doesn't mean it's not true. And now the Chiefs just struggle to keep up. You're like, whoa. Like, what does that mean? And I think that becomes the conversation more than anything. I don't know if the conversation ever fully flips. Even if they win these next two games, now they're 7-5, and now we're making stuff out. They become the scariest 7 seed in the history. It's like, okay, sure, whatever. Again, we don't have to keep boosting things up and magnifying them. We could just say, yeah, they'll be a dangerous team who nobody wants to face them. There's lots of teams that nobody wants to face. But even if they then still get into the playoffs and all that, which I think they will get into the playoffs, because I don't believe, I don't know if I don't want to say I don't believe, but I struggle to believe that the Chargers are going to be able to stay afloat because of all their injuries. Don't trust the Jags. It just seems that there is a path there, but losing, it does become harder. So it's like, these types of questions I don't like to look at mathematically, because where's the fun in that? Like, if we're just going to look at the basic math, well, then yes, obviously a loss here is really tough to get into the playoffs and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, no one's here for mathematical analysis for that type of stuff. So I look at it more like, what does it mean for the Chiefs in terms of just like they lose? Like, what is then the evaluation of this team? How good is this team? How great is this team? What can this team end up doing? It's like, let's say they were in the playoffs already and their playoff position was secure, but they lose to the Colts, they lose to the Cowboys, they lose to the Broncos, they lose to the Bills, they lose to the Eagles. Are you like, yeah, they're in the playoffs, but like, are they the scariest 7 seed, right? It's like, are they actually, or are they just like, yeah, they're like the Ravens from last year. They're like, yeah, they're good. You got Lamar, you got Derrick Henry, like, you got a good team. You got a team that has some experience, can do damage, can obviously dominate in any given moment, but can also completely fail in any given moment, right? You're like, yeah, they absolutely. Same thing with the Buffalo Bills. It's like, yeah, you got Josh Allen, can be a monster, can be special, can do a play that you're like, I've never seen that before. Unbelievable. But then also not look so good. And it's just like, was that where the Chiefs are right now? Where it's just like, they used to be that little bit above the Ravens and the Bills. And I'm just using the Bills and the Ravens as like that placeholder of how it has been over these last few years. I know things have changed, this year specifically. But it's just like, there was always that sense of no matter how good the Ravens were, no matter how good the Bills were, it's like the Chiefs they just do things slightly better, and especially in the most important moments. And they've consistently proven that. And it's like, have they lost that aspect where it's like they're still a darn good team, even a great team, just not an elite team, right? They still got Mahomes, still got Andy, still got Spags, can still dial up the perfect play in any given moment, can still have Patrick Mahomes make something out of nothing in any given moment. Like, you still have that, just like Lamar, just like Josh Allen, just like Joe Burrow when he's healthy, which is rare. But do they have now some of those limitations equivalent to the Bills, the Ravens, and even the Bengals, where you're like, well, that defense is really not good. That O-line is really not that good for the Bengals. For the Ravens, like, their play calling is kind of suspect in really important moments, and their defense hasn't quite been the same. And the Bills, you're like, That defense never seems to rise to the occasion, and you're like, those playmakers seem to not really elevate in these playoff games around Josh. And it's just like, do the Chiefs have that now? Their own brand of that, whatever it is, whether you want to put it on Mahomes or the playmakers or the defense, wherever you want to plan. Is it like, do you start to be like, I don't know, they just seem like everyone else right now, when they've always felt a little different than everyone else? I think that's what a loss starts to really reinforce, even if it's temporary, even if it's just for this season. It's just, you're just kind of like, yeah, I don't know. I'm so fascinated with this game, the Colts game. And when I made a Cowboys video, I said, like, they're playing the Eagles this weekend, and I said to Cowboys fans, like, I care more about how the Cowboys look against the Chiefs than the Eagles, because the Eagles, like, that's a divisional game, blah 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 blah. It's too weirdly specific. It's like the Chiefs, that's its own game. That's its own game. What can you do against the Chiefs? That is more telling for me. And right now, it's like I can make the same argument against the Colts, where I'm just like, I don't care what you looked like against the Steelers. I don't care what you looked like against the Rams. I don't care what you looked like against the Broncos. It's like, I don't care about any of that. How do you look against the Chiefs? How do you look against a coaching staff and a quarterback that are truly, truly bona fide special? What does your defense have in store for Patrick Mahomes? How do you disrupt Patrick Mahomes? And this offense, Daniel Jones, you've been cooking. You've been great. I've been praising you, defending you. How do you look against a defense now that Spags is like, if there's a way to expose you and to make you uncomfortable, he is going to do it. And again, Shane Steichen, you've been an awesome coach. You've been a great coach. You've been elevating Daniel Jones. Can you see Daniel Jones through this minefield that Spags is going to create for him on the road? Right? It's like, if you can't win this game, then you can't win a Super Bowl. That's the way how I'll see it. And so it's like, this is also like an ultimate barometer game for the Colts, even though the Chiefs are 5-5, which everyone just wants to be like, see, that means they're not that good. And it's like, you could be not as great as you were maybe in the past and have a worse record, but it doesn't mean that you're not insanely difficult to play. It was insanely difficult to play against the Bills, to play against the Chiefs, for the Broncos to play against the Chiefs, for the Eagles to play against the Chiefs. So it's just like, can you keep up? A lot of teams over these years could not. Now they seemingly can. Is it because they caught up, or because the Chiefs are stepping back? I don't know if there's a really good answer with that, because I don't think the Bills stepped up necessarily and have now like entered a new level of their greatness as proven by their games. But they did have an answer for like seemingly the first time in the entire time of them playing, and they had a coaching answer. And you're like, okay, that's new. That is unique. The Broncos finally had a quarterback and an offense that, in this gotta have a moment, it was like, we gotta convert, and they convert. We gotta force a 3 and out for on defense. We forced a 3. I was like, what we need, we can do. You so rarely see that. How many times do the Bills need to have a 3 and out, or Ravens need to have it? They can't have it. How many times they need to convert here? Couldn't do it. And so it's interesting. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Kansas City Chiefs? Do you think the season is over with a loss? I do encourage you to look at this through the lens of, just more of like the thoughts about the Chiefs and the quality of team they are, rather than, don't get too lost in the actual mathematics of it all, in terms of like how hard it will be. They'll have to win out and stuff like that. I just think in terms of like, right, for the Chiefs, it's very much like, are you able to win a Super Bowl or not? And do you start to feel or not is more the reality than the win with a loss like this against a team like the Indianapolis Colts this Sunday. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me. Either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all generally feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're all on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.